Hey, this is Betsy.
And this is Gina, and this is the Lost and Found podcast.
Our podcast is really a labor of love, and it came about a couple years ago when we recognized that we have some incredibly interesting, passionate entrepreneurs. We're making this for you guys. If you're listening, we've made this for you because it's created for our alumni community. These are small business owners and entrepreneurs. We're in the trenches together, but the stories that we can share, I think, will help you feel less alone, get you inspired, maybe even inspire you to connect with these people.
Real stories from real entrepreneurs in small communities. Welcome back to our Lost and Found podcast. You know, on today's episode, I'm pretty excited. I always say that we have a special guest, but I'm really excited to catch up with this guest. She is not super close to our location here at the Marketing Ed Academy in Wilmer. She is calling in from Bemidji, but today's guest is Hannah Peura. She owns Compass Rose in Bemidji, Minnesota. She has been in business for 7 years, which is kind of unbelievable because she's a very young entrepreneur with a young family, and she is just killing it up there. And what I'm really excited to talk to Hannah about, and we're going to get into all of it, but Hannah is an incredibly sweet personality. She went through our business reinvention program in January of 2023, and it didn't take long to learn that, yes, you are sweet, but you are smart, you've got grit, and you are determined. So I want to know where all of that comes from and how it's working so well for you as a small business owner. So welcome, Hannah. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you. Oh, it's so fun to see you again. I know it's hard being so far apart because you guys have lots of fun stuff to participate in that we're not able to, but I'm so glad we were able to do the class via Zoom and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a handy feature. And as we are kind of spreading across the state, I mean, as you know, we're small business owners in small communities, and we try to focus on Minnesota. And the reinvention is a great opportunity to do the Zoom-ins. But like you said, we also have some in-person sessions, which you got to enjoy last fall with our Love Your Work retreat. It was great having you there.
Yes, it was such good timing. I was about 8 months pregnant with our littlest kiddo, and I was so nervous that it was going to maybe be later in the year and I would have to miss it. So I was really happy to be able to join and meet you all in person.
Yeah, and it's fun just to be able to get together with and that's, it's the same reason why we do this podcast, but you get together with other small business owners, and it's like, those are really the only people that know what your journey is like. It's hard to find a lot of people that are sitting in your same shoes. So when we get all these small business owners together, all these entrepreneurs together in a room, it's like the energy is great, the brainstorming is great, the conversations are great, and hopefully it fuels people to go back to their businesses and try to implement something new, or tell their story in a new way, or reach out to other people, or give us a little motivation.
Yeah, running your business, it always feels like you're in your own little silo, or you're this like weird, quirky person because you love the numbers or like working more than 40 hours. And so it's fun to meet other people that are like, oh, I found my weirdos.
Exactly. Okay, I think we got our new slogan for this year's event. Love Your Work retreat. Find your weirdos.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Well, as we get into this podcast and as we get started in our reinvention, you shared that you believe in celebrating life's moments, big and small. And with your retail store, Compass Rose, you sell a variety of gift items, you sell some clothing, but you also have a wholesale component to your business where you create and make items. So let's get into all of that. Can you tell us a little bit first about why Compass Rose, why Bemidji, how you got your start?
Sure. So I don't know exactly where it's come from, probably just being independent and stubborn, but I've had this entrepreneur spirit of okay, I can use my big kid jobs to learn different things, but then apply it to however I want to. So I had gone to college at Bemidji State University, graduated with a degree in graphic design, and they really specialize in exhibit design, which brings you to like big cities, and that really wasn't my jam. I liked the small town living, being a bigger fish in the pool per se. And so I knew that that wasn't the direction I was going to go, but I wanted to still use my creativity and apply it more so in a polished form, not an artist type of form. So that's where business kind of came in. So a lot of my jobs in Bemidji were marketing focused, but I was always asking questions. I was always like trying to figure out, well, why do we do this? Or, other people in other departments, asking them how do they do their job or whatever, like probably almost to a like annoying degree, but just using every opportunity as a learning opportunity.
Smart.
And one of the things I did early on is when I worked at a bank, this gal came in and on her check, under the memo, it said for design services. And I said, oh, what do you do? And she told me she ran this like graphic design agency. And, I said, oh, I'm trying to get like an internship or trying to learn, like, can I scrub your toilets to like overhear ideas and stuff? And she was like, oh my goodness, you do not have to clean my bathroom. Just come once a week and we'll chat. And she was my first mentor. And so I was able to kind of, during college, learn what the real world was doing and what college was teaching me.
And Hannah, that is so smart. Yeah. That is so smart. Well, even just to reach out and ask questions and to find a mentor right out of the gate, like great advice for other young people too.
Yeah, no, I definitely recommend it. And now I try to be that to others too. I don't want to come off as being opinionated or whatever, but more like I've been blessed with these experiences. And so I want to share as much as possible to others because basically, like you can't learn all these things in college.
Yeah, right.
And it's just awesome to learn it from somebody else. So
yeah, and to get different perspectives. Smart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So after college, I had a couple what I call big kid jobs. I ended up kind of running my own independent like graphic design business, but it was so hard because you either have tons of clients and work or nothing. And so I was trying to figure out some kind of business that I could run, in my free time, but not have to like feed the funnel or have such big ebbs and flows. So I thought about doing an online store, and so then I could fulfill orders in my off time. Shortly after I started that, and mind you, our warehouse was like our 10 by 10 guest bedroom. And so my husband now, but boyfriend at the time, would always joke about, like, oh, I'm going to go clean the warehouse. And he would vacuum, this tiny rug and be like, oh, it's clean. So that's how it started in our house. But shortly after I opened the business, well, first off, let's back up. So I pitched the idea to Jordan, who is my husband, and he was like, yeah, that sounds great. Go ahead. And I think he was shocked when boxes of inventory showed up on our doorstep in a week.
So what was the idea? Pitch that to us a little bit. Just tell us a little bit more about that.
So the idea was to have an online store with product that was unique. So we had gone to probably 7 or 8 weddings that summer. We were in our late 20s, kind of the season of everybody getting married, friends having babies. But I had a really hard time finding gifts that were unique and not personalized, but like unique to our friend group, which was young, loved the outdoors, kind of had the up north mindset. And, locally for sure there wasn't much. And I still, even nationally there just wasn't this like curated store with that vibe. And so I was like, oh, I think there's a need here. So let's bring in some product and have it be online, because I also had a full-time job, and I was trying to be the advertising director at the business I was working for. And so I knew I didn't want to like open a storefront and be tied down and whatnot. So yeah, that's how.
So you're going to have product shipped to your home, and then you would design things to go on them, put them on them.
Not yet.
Okay.
Nope. So I wasn't in the designing part. I was just in the buying wholesale, selling retail.
Okay.
I learned how to create our own website on Shopify, learned about barcodes, did kind of like that research side. So it wasn't until several years later that I started designing our own products.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have the online retail store.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I pitched the idea to Jordan. Stuff showed up 2 weeks later on our doorstep. He was like, whoa, you're really doing this? And I was like, yeah, don't have time to waste. And then I did end up getting a promotion to be the advertising director at the place I worked at. But it just was so conflicting with what I believed in. Like, I believed in supporting our clients. I believed in supporting the staff. And because it was a bigger corporation, there just was a lot of pushback on certain things, or it took so long to do it. So I was getting really frustrated because, in my head it was like, well, let's just change it. But because it was corporate-ish, you couldn't just do that. So one day, I want to say it was like in November, I had a meeting and I said the words, I don't think I can work here anymore because this is just frustrating. I banged my head against the wall, blah, blah, blah. My boss said, okay, why don't you just take a cool down period, not understanding I had felt this way for months. And then he called me back in for a meeting in the afternoon, and the HR lady was in the room with us. And I was like, oh, like, what happened? And they said, we accept your resignation. And I was like, did I resign?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I basically got fired, which is so bizarre to me because I am a hard worker.
Yes, you are.
Want to do good.
You are motivated. Yeah.
High achiever.
Well, these things happen for a reason.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Totally. So I bawled my eyes out. I showed up at my husband's work and told him what happened because he wasn't answering his phone. And he goes, okay. When, it was an hour until I had to clean out my office, after hours or whatever. And he said, we're going to go to the bar. You're going to have 1 hour to have a drink, vent, and then you're over it. And I was like, okay. But it was like what I needed to just like pick myself up and be like, I didn't need that job that I thought I did. Society tells you like,
sure,
you need to work for corporate and have this big title and
of course,
and have a staff, and those are all things that like don't really mean anything to me.
Right.
So that was the start. It was like during the holiday season, and I had went and got my hair done, and I was talking to the owner of the salon, and she was like, well, I have this space next to us if you want to rent it. And I was like, okay, but I had no idea if an actual storefront would work or not. And she said, just do it month to month.
Wow.
$500 a month.
Stars line up.
Yes, exactly. Totally. Mm-hmm. Stars line up. And I did it. And so I got fired in November, and by February I was open, full-blown store. I mean, it was small. It was like 500 square feet, but
of course.
But yeah, that's how it started.
And all of the merchandise that you had in your store at 500 square feet and still, maybe still, you like you said, it's curated items that kind of fit the culture of your area, that fit your friend group. You were filling this void. So you're looking for items that sentimental. You're looking for items that had what kind of vibe?
That basically reminded me or would want me to give them to my friends and family. So I could go around our store even now and be like, oh, I bought this because, when my little sister got her driver's license, I thought this would be a fun keychain for her. Or when my best friend got married, I thought these would be cute, like bridesmaid gifts. So all of it has I guess if you looked at it, you could be like, oh, it's this, and this, or whatever. But it's just kind of a gut feeling when I do the buying, because if it doesn't feel like me, or it doesn't feel like our style, then I won't buy it. And the bonus is a lot of the things that I'm attracted to have amazing owners, and we're able to support other small businesses, female owned businesses, even a lot of the big suppliers that we buy from. They started small and have really great stories. So it's fun to feel like our store is a community of entrepreneurs too, as well as being a part of our actual community in Bemidji here.
What a cool opportunity. And I love that explanation, and that, because that is what you're doing. I mean, you have a small business, you're supporting your community, you're supporting staff, but you're also supporting other small businesses and entrepreneurs too in the work that you're doing. And I also love how you describe the items that you have in your store, from the keychain to bridesmaids gifts to wedding gifts. And that really correlates back to the why that you shared with us in Reinvention, that you believe in celebrating life's moments, big and small.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to elaborate on that I didn't realize, at first, obviously, I opened the store to make money, to not have a job, but it didn't take long in that small space to hear what these products meant to other people. And one of the first times that ever happened was I had this sign at the store, and it said, "You betcha." And for those not in Minnesota, it's like a Minnesota saying, very common for us to say. Instead of like yes, it's like, "Oh, you betcha." And one day I was working at the store, and these 3 older ladies came in, and they had been talking, and so, the space was small, so I could overhear them. And they had just came from a funeral of a friend of theirs that they had known for years and years and years. And so they were kind of reminiscing and talking about how the funeral was and whatever. And this one gal came up to the checkout, and the other gals were looking around the store, and they saw this "You Betcha" sign, and they just took a moment. It was like it touched them so much. They were like, "This is what he would say all the time. We just came from our friend's funeral. This is what he would say all the time." Oh, and they hugged each other and had this amazing moment together. Yes. And so I was like, okay, it's not just a sign, it has to do with all these other things. So that was the first time it had happened. And then another time that I really remember was this first time grandma stopped at our store when we were at our downtown location here now. She stopped at our store on the way to the hospital. Her daughter had just given birth to twins, and we were her first stop. She was like, "I need to get a gift. I know you have the perfect baby gifts." And she was just glowing about how excited she was to be a grandma. And those are the types of moments that are oh my gosh, I love, having this space for people to share and celebrate their stuff. And we say big and small moments because, sometimes it's big things like births, deaths, sobriety, whatever. But other times it's like, hey, it's my birthday today and I happen to get the day off, or, it's sunny out and it's been raining for 7 days or whatever,
Right.
And so we get to share in other people's joys, and their life's moment. It's not always, rainbows and unicorns. Like sometimes it is the sadness where somebody loses a pet or something, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. And I can see that obviously that fuels your passion for the work that you do, and you're hearing this from your customers. But also I love that it's guiding your selection that you provide in your store and what you're offering, and that you're getting that feedback from your people. And I can see you like trying to pick items going, oh, that would make a good gift for this, or that would be a really fun thing for this, or I can kind of see the whole process happening, and you're doing a great job with it.
It's fun. Like when I do pick stuff, especially when I pick like some controversial types of things. So during COVID, we made these. We kind of took a leap of faith by purchasing our own glow forge, like a laser cutter.
Okay.
To do Christmas ornaments, and that's kind of when we transitioned a little bit into personalized gifts. But anyways, we like to push the boundaries just a tiny bit. So it was trending, especially for 2020, to do these snowflakes that had the F word in cursive, so you couldn't tell what it said around it. Like it just looked like this pretty snowflake, but they were fuck flakes, and girlfriends were buying like 10 at a time. They're like, oh, I have to send this to my friend in Georgia, or this is so funny. It was to the point like when a grandma would come up with it, we'd have to be like, just so you know, this says the F word, and she'd be like, oh my gosh.
She was still like, you know what? That makes it even better. It's appropriate for this Christmas. Yes, I love it.
Just adds to the conversation. So yeah, it's really fun when I pick a product and it has like a social aspect to it too.
Yeah, that's great. So you kind of dabbled into this a little bit, that you had this laser machine. And was this kind of the start of the customization?
Sort of. So, well, this is a really funny fun fact. My husband and I like to go hunting together, but I get bored really easily. So I was in the turkey blind one spring, and I was like, oh, maybe I should do this cricket thing. I've heard people talk about it, but not really know how to use it, whatever. So I researched it and bought it when I was in the turkey blind. And so that's kind of the first machine or process that we did, where we could use it to make stencils to create personalized signs. And then, yes, we got into a glow forge and being able to create our own stuff. So we were kind of trying to be like an in-person Etsy with the signs and stuff. And then when we got into the laser cutter and engraver, it was more so survival of like controlling our inventory, controlling product selection, because I could design based on like what people were wanting. And then it kind of sparked into, okay, what other processes can we do that are like easier? Because with engraving, there's no color involved, and I love color. So it was hard to just be silver or wood or whatever. So then we looked at a process called sublimation, and that's when the wholesale side of our business really grew.
Okay, so a few questions on that.
Yes.
So you said that you were able to control your inventory, control your supply. So I'm guessing this is all still in that kind of 2020 time where like supply chains were, I mean, you had no idea if the orders that you placed 3 months ago were ever going to show up, if something was going to come, if nothing was going to come, making it very difficult for a retail store to sell product when you didn't know if your product was going to be in the store. So very smart move. Now, so I'm hearing that you're saying, We were controlling our inventory. We had the product in. We could customize it for customers. You know, if it was fun, but it wasn't really, you wanted to bring it into this new direction.
Yeah, it needed to be scaled. So, you know, we're in our 7th year of business, and every year we're learning something all the time. And one thing for sure I needed was to be able to scale things and not have it revolve just around me. So when it came to the onesie twosies, I need, you know, Christmas ornament with my kid's name on it. Like, that was all me, and I would have to stop and pivot and do this thing. And I'm not sure timing wise if it was, I feel like it was during the reinvention class that I made a lot of these like really big decisions. But during your class, there, you know, we analyzed everything. Every part of the business, doesn't make money, how much time is spent in it, all of that. And so we made some really big changes to the business after that.
And that was January of 2023.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us about those big changes.
Sure. So the benefit of being a small business and me being the boss, I guess, is those frustrations I had with corporate. I could just make decisions on my own. So what I had issues with my, you know, full-time job, I could just do decisions on my own with my own business. So what we haven't talked about is we had an activity space. So our store now, our location now, is 2,500 square feet, so much larger than our first
larger.
Store.
When did you move into that new location?
Well, a year after our first location. So
okay. So you've been
17 or 18.
Okay, perfect. All right, so you're in this new location. It's a lot bigger.
A lot bigger, way more than we needed, but the location is incredible as far as walk by traffic.
Right downtown Bemidji.
Right downtown. We're like a half block away from the Paul and Babe statues, which is like, I want to say the second busiest roadside attraction.
Wow. All right.
I think it's incredible. So, it was almost a location we couldn't refuse. But so anyways, technically we have 3 levels, but we have a retail level. Then upstairs we wanted to use it for something, and so trying to bring in the community aspect of it, we opened what we called the Tree House, which was an activity space. We also did crafting classes, which was all great before COVID, to be able to come together and be creative and whatnot. But then when COVID hit, we obviously couldn't do that. And it was a lot of work to get it started. The momentum was growing, and then it just halted for 2020. Anyways, when we went through reinvention, I looked at the numbers and the effort, and like, it just wasn't cutting it. It was like 1% of our business. The wholesale side had been growing a lot. And you guys had actually suggested closing it, and I was like a hard no on it. But then when I looked at it without emotions, I was like, okay, yep, that's what needs to be done. So,
well, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's one of my bullet points I wanted to talk about too. And not that, you know, we, like you said, in reinvention, every week you have to dive into a part of your business and you have to go in there. And as an entrepreneur, you spend so much time working on the business, you know, or working in the business, you're not working on the business. So these weekly sessions are our opportunity to kind of dive in and to take different perspectives, and to, you know, you look at your customer experience, we look at our pricing, we look at sunk costs. And then that final day when we come together, you know, our job is to put all of this that we hear throughout this process together, and kind of, we call it constructive inspiration. And our goal is just to give you a new lens of looking at it. Or like, we've heard you say this, but maybe not super directly say it, but this keeps coming up. So we're going to put it in front of you, and you do what you want with it. And it's okay that the initial reaction was like, what do they think they're doing? So yeah, you had this event space upstairs. It was adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Super cute. You did crafts. You sold some craft projects up there. Love that it's a community, part of the community. And when you were finished with Reinvention, we kind of said, like, Hannah, you've got this great gift in your wholesaling and your graphic designing that you're doing and all this product that you're creating. Like, you should go for that. Use it for that product. We could see you really growing with that.
Yeah, it was hard to nix it because, we talk about celebrating life's moments. It was a space where people had birthday parties and bridal showers, baby showers, whatever. But kind of during that time, there were some other places in town that had opened up.
Sure.
And that was their focus. And so I felt like I wasn't abandoning the community. It was like, okay, we can't do this as well as they can. We just need to, it just wasn't my passion, I guess.
Right.
And money-wise, it didn't make sense. So,
Right.
we nixed that. And then we also looked at, like, our personalized gifts, how much time and effort that took, when an order came in. I wasn't like, oh, woohoo, an order. I was like, oh, I have to do this.
And it's the longest last name ever.
Yeah. How do I get this to fit? So we stopped doing personalized gifts, and then just really dove into the wholesale side. We got a sales rep, and we just like went for it and turned the whole upstairs into a production area. So the wholesale side is like another story that we can get into. But
So what are you offering now from your wholesale side? So now there's Compass Rose. What is it called?
Creative Compass.
Creative Compass. So we have Compass Rose, the retail and boutique that is on the main level, right downtown Bemidji.
Yep.
And then upstairs now we have the Creative Compass.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So how it kind of started was, again, I wanted like color in the mix, and so this process called sublimation allows us to do that. I also needed to control inventory, so I wasn't wanting to bring in something where I needed tons of SKUs,
Right.
Because I didn't know if I'd be able to get that in to then resell to people. So what we ended up doing, actually, I have one here because
Yay!
I have these are our oopsies where they're not perfect. But
Sound
we
like
started
the Northern
with
Lights.
yes.
Oh,
Yep.
that's really pretty.
So we started with the drinkware.
Cool.
Because it was kind of a sector. How do I say this? So we're like a half block from Paul and Babe, and there's this amazing illustrator. Her name is Cindy Lindgren.
Beautiful
And
work.
She
has beautiful work.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of her specialties is illustrating Paul and Babe doing fun stuff. So like kayaking, bicycling, all the Minnesota things. But I was wanting to do those on drinkware. So she does magnets, postcards, prints. She like has her whole business doing that. So when we started to do sublimation, I pitched to her the idea like, hey, could we be your manufacturer? And like you should sell these because like even just our store would sell a ton of them. And she was like, oh, I've done it before, but it's so heavy to ship and to manage and whatnot. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to ask one more time because she wasn't like a true no.
Right.
So I was like, well, would you let us do it for our store? And she was like, sure, because then it didn't have to do shipping. So we started licensing her work. Kind of at the same time, I saw a lot of my friends that own resorts struggling with also being able to get merchandise in.
Right.
And a big thing for them is merchandise with their resort name on it.
Sure, yeah, the logo gear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So name drop is what it's called. Like you have a design and then you just put your business name. So I pitched to a few of them the drinkware idea because, again, if you go into a resort gift shop, a lot of it is apparel. But there's several sizes, there's several colors, whatever. Where with drinkware, like one size fits all type of thing. And then I also knew if I bought 100 of this size vessel, because they come white, if I bought 100 of those, I could do computer mock-ups, and it would look like we had 100 products, but the process of sublimation is you print it on the thing. So
Okay.
so it was way easier of a process to do, personalized or name drop things with that.
Yeah. So then you started going gangbusters with that. So now you're doing name drop gear for resorts. You're doing it for youth groups. You're doing it for your store. You're customizing it for this up north brand. I love the Pollen Babe stuff. That is so cute. And now you're actually have a rep that's selling your items to other stores and other retailers.
Yes, we're actually in over 100 other retail stores and resorts. Yes, including the airport. So it's so much fun when my friends go on vacation. I mean, I'm jealous of their vacations, but when they go on vacation, they take pictures next to our stuff at the airport stores.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, and we're basically in Washington to Maine to obviously Minnesota to Texas. So we're
Hannah,
all over the map.
Okay, so what % of your business, if it was retail and this and the whole and Creative Compass, like Creative Compass has obviously grown a lot in the last few years.
Yes, so it's about a third of our revenue.
Awesome.
Now, but it is. It's grown, so both sides have grown a lot. That it has basically, in 2 years of doing it full time, we're making the amount of revenue we probably did a couple years ago in retail.
That's awesome.
So they've both jumped, and I would say our overall revenue has doubled in the last year.
Hannah, I love that.
Yes, but what people don't tell you is sometimes you can grow too fast. And so then there's cash flow issues. So that's what we have ran into this year is like, last year was great, but with wholesale, a lot of times accounts have terms.
Yep.
And so they're not paying till 30 days after. In a perfect world, it's 30 days.
Sure.
But sometimes it ends up being 60 days after the order is placed because of, a couple weeks on each end. So now that's our channel. I didn't know you could. I was just like, yes, let's make as much money as possible. We could do great things with it. But yeah.
Well, that would be a whole great class in itself, because I hear what you're saying. So you're purchasing. You have all the product, you're purchasing the product up front, you're making it, you're getting it done, you ship it out, and then it takes them 30 to 60 days to actually write you the check. So you're shipping out that product before you're getting your payment for it, and you have other product going out. So you're kind of playing this balancing act all the way along.
Yes, and so one of the benefits of doing wholesale is it's balancing out the highs and lows of our seasonal retail business.
Yeah.
Because we are a tourist town, so summer is our busiest.
Sure.
So January, February, March are almost dead. But wholesale-wise, that's when people are doing their buying. So people place their orders. We're low on money coming in. They place their orders. We buy the product. We start to make it. We ship it. And then 30 days after we ship it, then they write their check, but who knows if they do it the day of or a couple weeks later. So that's been a balancing act. Plus this January, we expanded our product line. Not only do we do drinkware now, which we have 8 different vessels or shapes of drinkware, from these tumblers to can coolers to coffee mugs. We've also added Swedish dishcloths,
Oh,
stickers,
yes.
magnets, note cards and postcards,
Nice.
and Christmas ornaments.
Nice. Oh, that'll be great.
Yeah, so now it's like a full collection with our designs.
That's awesome. And look at you putting all this work, like all your education and all this learning, like you're putting it all to such good use. But I think that goes back to, in the intro, I kind of had said it, like in reinvention, like you're obviously this super sweet and smart person, but like you also are made of grit and determination and motivation. And when I hear you talk about things, it's like, well, I'm not gonna let that fail. Like I'm gonna do it. And I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to focus on it, and it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
I call it calculated risks.
Calculated
like,
risk.
People think, like, oh my gosh, everything you try, like, sort of works out or whatever. But there's two components of it. One is the calculation ahead of time to make sure, like, okay, what I know, what I think could happen, like, is it worth if it doesn't work type of thing. And then you just like make the leap to do it. The other part is not being afraid to fail, because entrepreneurship is like 90% failure, 10% success. And, in the world of social media, it looks like it's all success because you see the highlight reels and stuff. But, there's a lot of failure, and instead of it being a devastating type of thing, I look at it as like, okay, I learned what not to do. Yeah. There's this Edison quote, he tried like to figure out the light bulb 1,000 times or something, but he's like, oh, I learned 999 ways to not do it, and then the one way to do it. So, just continuing to pivot and grow and being honest with yourself as far as like, I don't know the perfect way, and nobody does because there's so many variables, but like listening to your customers, pulling reports, trying things and seeing how it goes. It's all like a research project. And I know some people might look at the business and be like, geez, you sure are shifting a lot. And, can you just like figure out what your business is? But there's been so many variables on our journey, like changing location, so now we needed more inventory, hiring a full-time person, so now the income that should come home to me goes to somebody else. COVID, the boom after COVID where people were extra spending and then we couldn't get inventory, and employee changes and all that stuff. So, it's not, I think my misperception of business before I went into business was like, okay, you figure it out and you follow this path and you repeat it for 20 years. That's not the case.
That's not how it works. No, but again, that is so smart of you, and that's what makes you a great entrepreneur, Hannah, because, well, you said a few things in that, but one was I really respect, and I also like the importance of understanding your inventory, your customer, and knowing your books and your numbers. Like, you are very good at that, and I love that, like diving into that so you know what is working and what isn't working. And we oftentimes run into that with small business owners, when I owned my business, we got into that trap, like in our second year of business too. We were like, well, we know what's selling and what's not selling. And then I was like, once you really take a step back and dig into those reports, there are some surprises. And there are some like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, we're selling that, but like at no margin. What were we thinking? Yeah. Or wait, we aren't really selling those, or that's our top selling product. I didn't realize that. Why is that our top selling product? So really taking the time to go through those numbers is so important.
And being able to change quickly. So an example is, we are starting to do some of our own apparel now. And there's this one shirt that we do that has the perceived value of it being like more expensive, or but actually there's not, like, it's not that expensive for us. And so I priced it accordingly, like I priced it fair. But we were selling tons of it, and so much so that like I couldn't keep up with making it. So we raised the price $5, thinking it would help slow the sales, and it didn't. So now we just make $5 extra on that shirt, which percentage wise on a
That's a big deal.
$30 shirt is great. So even being able to change quickly or being aware of that, like now when we sell however many for the rest of the summer, like we're making that extra $5.
Yeah, which is wonderful. And that is a huge benefit of being a small business owner. And you've touched on that a few times, is that as a small business owner, you know, you own the business. You can make the change that you want to make, and you can make it as quickly as you want to make it. Like oftentimes with these large corporations and businesses, a very small change can take months to implement.
Yeah.
But when you're quick on your feet and you can dive into it, you know, you can make these changes that, like you just said, will mean so many more extra sales just in the remaining of the summer. Like you can make that pivot in June and see the benefit in July.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
There's goods and bads of it too. Like small changes do make a big difference, but also not making those changes can make a big difference in a short amount of time. So, like I was able to take 6 to 8 weeks off with our when our baby was born, and you know it was during the holiday season, which was like great for us personally, but business wise, like that's also when our busiest time. So like I wasn't available to bring in extra product. I wasn't, didn't have my finger on the pulse of what was selling or not. So like our holiday season probably didn't end up as great as it could have. But that just gives me more motivation to like set up more processes and kind of safe fails or whatever to make the store run without me.
I love that. And I love that you're using it as a learning opportunity, that you can set things up in the future. One of my questions for you is something that you're thankful for you did in the past that's helping you today, but something you're doing today that's going to help your future self. And that is a great example of setting up processes and learning from today's experience, so in the future it makes it so much easier.
Yes, I've definitely learned, like, if you take that extra time, even setting up a employee handbook or a manual for certain things or documenting how stuff is done. Sure, it might take 3 times the amount of time versus telling somebody how to do it, but then they have that reference, so they're not asking you the questions later. You also have the backbone of your business to make decisions on. Before COVID, I had all of that in place and was thinking, oh, this is great. Like, we worked so hard to get it together, and then shit hit the fan. And, then we were in survival mode for almost 3 years.
Of course.
And so now kind of looking at it and having new hires, it's like, oh, I have to do the work. Again, it's not totally from scratch, but it feels like a whole, pile of work to get to that.
It is.
It doesn't make you money, but it like kind of does, so I was weighing that out. And
documenting those processes and creating efficiencies for your future is like, it's so important, and it's hard to do right now, but you'll be thankful you did it in a few years from now. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and we're in the trenches of like little kid world at our house. We have a 8-month-old right now, and our daughter's 2.5. My husband works full time and crazy hours. Like, he went to work at 3 a.m. this morning. And then crazy hours for me too, because when the kids are at grandma and grandpa's, I try to work. Like last night, I worked until 10 o'clock. So yeah, just trying to fit it all in.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, you're a young entrepreneur. You've got a young family. Mm-hmm. Your business is 7. You're established. But what was it like when you started as such a young entrepreneur, like in a pretty established business community at the time? What was it like being a part of that? Like, I know that you're a chamber member and everything now, and you're very active in the business community. But what was it like being a young entrepreneur and new?
Well, when I like even working for other people, I was really involved, like being the representative for chamber events and
All
stuff.
right.
It kind of just went hand in hand with like doing marketing. Um, and so I did make good connections when I was
That's awesome.
younger, middle, early 20s. And that was fun, when I was like the young kid on the block. And so it was fine for me to be asking all the questions and, didn't really have anything to lose per se. Um, I started the business when I was 28,
Wow.
I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
29? I don't know. I'm 37 now. And so, I mean, I'm 30 years, but anyways. So most of my 30s have been with the business. And so it's been interesting because when I started, I had gotten fired from my job. So it was
Yeah.
like a little embarrassing in a way to be like, I got into this because of a failure. But the more that I was able to like be confident about it and, make more connections and stuff, like it just, I kind of like legitimized myself because obviously
yeah.
there's always that, imposter syndrome, and even still there's imposter syndrome, but I know
The killer of creativity. When
it is.
people were like, no, like you are where you're supposed to be. You're doing great work. Yeah, that's good.
When you're so close to it though, like you don't realize what you're doing, or like you don't think, like I think if I can do it, then anybody can do it. And then you learn that's not the case.
That's not the case.
Yeah. So I knew when we started the business, and I say we because like Jordan has been a big support. He's not an owner of the business, but obviously I couldn't do
Yeah.
all of it without his support at home too. But I knew that we were gonna have a family someday and life was gonna get busier, and so I tried to just work as hard as possible in the beginning, knowing that I would have to take a step back later, but hopefully the business would be far enough along later that that would be okay. Not thinking 2-ish years for COVID would be
Sure.
the stumbling block, but the funny thing is I work so much that Jordan proposed to me at the store because he couldn't get me out of the store to do it.
That's a smart man. He knew he had to meet you where you were. That's all right.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yep. Oh, it was so funny. We had planned a trip to Nashville, like the only vacation we've taken out of state together. And I was working really hard trying to get ready to be able to be gone. And he kept saying like, "Oh, let's go to dinner. Let's do this." And I'm like, "I have to get this stuff done before we go." And so he just proposed there.
That's perfect. He knew what he was getting into, and he loved it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yep. So it's definitely been like our second home. I
Yeah.
mean, we've had so many experiences there, good and bad, panic attacks and
Sure.
crying our eyes out to, huge successes. And, we found out we were having a baby girl with Hazel at the store, and the proposal and all that. So
Oh, I love it.
a lot of goods and bads, but
That's how it works, though. It's all interwoven together, right? Like it's all
yeah, there's no such thing as balance. You get that question all the time.
right.
It's
Preach,
just,
Hannah, preach.
yeah, it's like just juggling. Like instead of a balancing act, it's a juggling act. And, there's some weeks, like this week, we don't have daycare, and so it's going to be more family focused. Other weeks when the kids are at grandma's, like I said, working super late, and it's not a 9 to 5 job. Sometimes it's 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. It's just fitting it in, but I know that it's going to be a great example to our kids of what can be achieved, and that there's no limits on what you can do, you just limit yourself. So, sometimes I get myself in more of a pickle than I wish, but.
Oh, that's awesome. I totally agree with the balance thing. It's like, it's a unicorn, man. That, it's a great story to have out there, and is growing. The juggling analogy is a really good analogy, because, when you're growing your family and growing your business, like, it just, it ebbs and flows, and you're working with it all, and whatever feels right and it's working for you. And I think you're right. It's a great example to your kids of what you're doing. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I'm really happy that I had a daughter, and a daughter first, I guess, to start my motherhood journey, because I feel like, there's so much opportunity for women out there, especially in leadership and whatnot, if they're given a chance, or if they make their own opportunity. I know you had talked about, like, how have I been received as a young entrepreneur and a female entrepreneur in our town. We are very conservative, and so there's still this, like, good old boys group in town. And I've had some opportunities to speak about my experience or business or whatever, and there's definitely been some backlash and comments of, like, why do you deserve to do this, and what do you know, you're so young. And it's like, I'm just sharing my story. I never want to speak for anybody else. I'm just sharing my story, and everybody has one. And so, just gotta do what you gotta do.
Ooh, that's a good point. So when you're saying that, you brought me back to, we had a presentation. I can't remember. It was like for a community, regional chambers, and different groups that came in, and we were store owners at the time too, and we were asked to speak about our business and kind of rallying the community. And there's this interesting place. So, I know you probably feel it, because as a retailer in a downtown, in a tourist community, the impact of your store, it's pretty big. Mm-hmm. And there may be some larger employers or companies that don't always recognize or appreciate, like, the effect that having a vibrant downtown can bring to a community. And I just remember this one time when we were speaking at this event, and one of the people were like, well, I don't know, whatever you little ladies do, if it's like flowers or something at your spot, I don't know how that relates. And it was like,
yeah.
Whoop, slow down. Let's circle back to what we really do.
Yeah.
So that is hard if your impact is being dismissed or not seen when you're, in a variety of business owning communities. How do you do that? How do you prepare for that? How do you take a step back and say, I know what I'm doing?
And this is a struggle I have anyways, as far as, like, marketing and whatever. Like, there are things that I do in the business that, like, Jordan doesn't even know I do.
Sure.
So my closest person doesn't know. And so I definitely can understand the perception of what a store is. Like, oh, why? Like, okay, so yesterday's a great example.
Yeah.
It's July 1st, first day of 4th of July week. I run into some friends. I have iced coffee in my hand. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. It looks like I've just been, like, sloughing off. Little do they know, I've just been, like, running around doing all the things. And this was, like, my one calm moment that they saw.
Right, you had 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I needed the coffee. And so they don't know what's going on the inside, or the impact, or the struggles. One thing that I try to bring awareness to is, like, I would bet almost every small business, especially in our town in the winter, is, like, weeks or a month away from going out of business.
Yep.
And small economic changes, climate changes, whatever, like we didn't get a lot of snow this winter. So that changed
Huge
our
impact.
winter tourist season. So there's so much that impacts that, but unless I want to be on a soapbox for 23 hours a day, like they're not going to get educated on it. And so just, I guess, defending when I can, or doing the education when I can. Because I also don't want it to be like, oh, you don't know what I do.
No,
and
of course not.
Like a fight back.
No, of course not.
But one thing I do mention we've had like town hall types of meetings and stuff with the chamber. One thing I do mention is, the small shops and downtown restaurants are the shiny thing that they like dangle in front of tourists to get here. But then in reality, we're not getting the support. And so it's like, you got to take care. Yes. You got to take care of or support, like, what is your main attraction, or what is, and luckily we've been able to rally together.
Awesome.
There's a downtown business alliance that's working together. It seems like the culture of the shops are more collaborative than competitive. And that has always been a big thing for me. At our first location, we were like not by any other retailers, and so we were a destination shop, and that was really hard to get people to come there. So it's great being downtown now and being next to other retailers. And we work really hard. I think other people do too, work really hard to be different and to lean into what is our differences.
I love that.
And I'm trying to like recognize that a little more now too, instead of like we just have different products. It's like, what's our atmosphere? What's our the feeling, all the senses. When people come into the store, what does it smell like? What do they see? What do they hear? And to make that really a Compass Rose experience.
Well, and having that downtown alliance, we'll just say alliance, but having a collaborative culture with your other downtown businesses, that is so fantastic. And it's hard to do because sometimes it's hard to play in the sandbox together, but it is so good for everybody. And when you were saying that, even like with these winters that just came by, for you to be able to go stop by the coffee shop and be like, oh my gosh, this is so hard.
Yes.
What are we going to do? What's your guys' plan? Do you think we could collaborate on something? Are you going to cut back on hours? Like, it's even having somebody that you can brainstorm with that maybe understands, that we're in this together. And I also love your example of, sometimes the retail, the restaurants, the coffee shops, those are the things that get dangled out, the shiny, like, look what we have. But, like, we need the same support. Like, that's great. Yeah. I love that. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, it's been that we've been collaborating a lot more. And I think it's
awesome.
It's definitely helped, like, having sort of consistent hours for all the shops so that people know what's available. So this summer we all not all of us, but most of us decided to do 7 days a week and be open on Sundays. And then that way somebody's not just coming to one shop. They're like, oh, I can shop the whole street.
Good for you.
So
that's going to be, that's
going
huge.
Good. There's always room for growth, but it's been going good.
Good for you. And I also love the focus that you have on your own shop. Like you said, creating this vibe and setting it up and, what makes you different and doing all the 5 senses around that. Like you're going all in. You're creating an experience inside of Compass Rose, which is so cool.
Yes.
Ah, I love it. So let's hear a little bit about the plans for the future. Where's the direction? Where are we headed?
Sure.
What's next, Hannah?
So my main goal is to be cash flow positive, which I think is everybody's goal.
Yeah.
But I want to be cash flow positive. I want to be able to cash my paycheck every payday. And I want to start to build a team that can be more of a consistent, supportive team. So those are kind of like, what would you call, like, if I reach those, then I know I'm like being successful.
Okay.
on the money side, or like the direction that side, I really want to grow like our wholesale brand. We're just tipping our toes into the water as far as who we can reach, what we can do. But I needed to make sure that our processes were in order so that we wouldn't disappoint our customers and that we could retain for reorders. I'm learning about manufacturing and even a little purchasing overseas. That has been an ethical conflict for me. However, I also need to survive. So part of me sometimes feels like there's a standard for small businesses that there's not a standard for big box stores. You know, I feel like people want a small business to have all USA made things, give back to the community, you know, like sponsorships and stuff like that. To have the owner in the shop all the time, like the only employee. And these are all standards that like cannot be met and have a successful, long-lasting business. And so I have caved to looking into some of our manufactured things to buy from China. And the reality is we can buy something in the US for $2.50, or we can buy it from China, shipped, landed, everything for 75 cents. And that margin is going to do wonders for our business. And maybe later when we are more stable, we can come back around. But so that's been a new challenge is, you know, is that legit and the ethical struggle of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say just leaning into the wholesale side of things, it's definitely a spot to grow. On the retail side, just oomping it up a little bit. I'm redoing our website right now. We're working on merchandising often to make it look nice and change it up when people come in.
Sure.
You know, trying to get a handle on, like I said, the processes and whatnot for long-term staff. So
there's growth for you in your future. These are all big things. These are all big things. And you know what? When you were explaining them and describing them, like I was really excited for you because this is where like an established small business gets to go next, right? Yeah. Like you've been in it for 7 years and now you're like to have the opportunity to even be thinking about and exploring processes and pricing and manufacturing and all of these things. That's a really big step and a really cool that's really cool.
We're like in our second act, I feel like. One of my good friends, she recently bought an established business, and it's been amazing to see what they've done in the last couple years, and they've just exploded and grown, and the brand, you know, all the stuff that they've done. And so we talk quite a bit about stuff, and I'm envious because in their short 2 years, like what she's been able to do. But she reminds me that she didn't have to start from scratch.
Right.
And so that's one thing, even though I'm a little frustrated about where we're at on year 7, you know, it was 2 years of COVID and going from not knowing anything. I didn't go to business school. I actually switched my major from marketing to graphic design because you had to write a thesis if you got a marketing degree, and you had to do a presentation.
You're like,
if you did graphic design. So that's what I did.
All right. Well, you've come very far in 7 years. You've started in a 500 square foot location, online out of your warehouse bedroom location to a 500 square foot. You've expanded to a 25 square foot vacation. You've had an event space. You now have a wholesale production area. I mean, Hannah, you have 2 kids in that process and a marriage in the last 7 years too. Like you're moving forward, man.
And my sanity still. That's the crazy part.
How do you do it? So with all of that known, what's your advice to other people who are starting a small business? Like if someone came to you and they said, Hannah, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to start a small business. Your advice would be?
I would definitely take on the calculated risks
Yeah, I like
guide.
that.
So even before you start it, doing your research, making sure the town you choose is the best fit for what your store is going to be. Do you need an online component of it? What space do you need? What is the cost of rent in that town? Like kind of do your homework ahead of time. And then once it makes sense and there's only a tiny gap of risk, then make the leap. And then just know that you're going to fail most of the time, and that you just need to be willing to not be like stubborn or like I feel like a lot of times small business owners open something because it's like something that they love, and they don't really acknowledge that the store isn't for them. Like, you're not going to buy all the things in the store to pay your bills. You're creating the service for the community that you're in. And so if you're selling all purple clothes and nobody likes the color purple, like, hello, you need to pivot and diversify what you're offering. So, I don't know, just being willing to be flexible, but still being on that road of this is where I'm going, I think is important. So.
No, that's like perfect. And that's why, Hannah, what you just said, that's why one of the first things we do in our programs, whether it's boot camp or if it's business reinvention, is we get that why down for your business. The why is supposed to be your compass. The why is supposed to be your navigation. So you can make all these pivots and you can make changes and you can react to what your customers may want or need or your business environment at the time or change a business model. But what should stay consistent in all of that is the why. And that's what hopefully brings people that clarity. And I love how you even brought up, you have to be able, there's freedom in failure. Those are steps of learning and steps to success. Like that's okay. And to look at it in that way allows us freedom to grow and to move forward. One of the things we talk about in reinvention too is the sunk cost, where small businesses get stuck like, but I already invested in this new sign and I don't want to put another new sign up, or I already invested in this merchandise, so I don't want to get new merchandise. But it's like, don't let the decisions of your past like hold you back from moving forward, because you're a new person today than you were 3 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you would have stopped 3 years ago, how would you have been here today?
Yeah.
Right?
And you had talked about like the sunken costs. If you do pivot, maybe the like product you had left over or supplies. Like with us, we have lots of supplies left over from our crafting classes. But recently we just had like a big rummage sale at the store, and we were able to recoup quite a bit of the money. I mean, not all of it, but, it's better than it sitting in the corner doing nothing. So, I mean, it's also okay to like do something else with it, or to repurpose it, or even to donate it and be like, okay, well, these 20 hammers are going to do better at a construction school than they are in the corner. So, stuff like that. But.
Yeah, thinking outside the box. I love it.
Yes, it's like a MacGyver type of experience. Is like, okay, this rubber band, what else can it be?
How can we hang this display? This is all we have is a candlestick, a matchbook, and a who knows what, like how can we get this to work? We can figure it out.
Yep. And you just kind of go with it, because you're limited on funds, you're limited on time, and so it's always the juggling of how to do it, I guess. I don't know. It's what's going to be the best decision at the time, and later you might realize, well, that wasn't that great of a decision, but now you can make a better one at this time. So.
Right. If you would have never made that decision, you wouldn't have gotten to this one.
Yeah. All the things I learned, like, I wish I could just go back to day one with all my knowledge and then be so far ahead. But it's been fun to, like, learn all the things, meet all the people, and, it's really funny to look back on the products and what the store looked like back in the day. 'Cause now I'm like, oh. But what's really cool is we have people that have come back every summer for the last 6-7 years. And they're like, oh, wow, it's so great to like see how your store has evolved and, fun to see you again. And, we only see them once a year, but it feels like a friendship in a way.
Absolutely.
Because they follow us on socials too. So
I love it. It's great. Impact that you're making in your community, for your family, for your products. I mean, it's really impressive, Hannah.
Thank you.
You work really hard and you are very determined. And I just love that about you. You're very smart.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, where can we find you? Where can we learn more about Creative Compass and Compass Rose?
Yes. So if you're ever in Bemidji, come downtown. That's our store location. You can always shop online at compass-rose.com. You'll see the new and improved website in a couple days here. And then we're also on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok I'm trying to do.
Ooh.
Yeah, no dance moves, but try to show you some behind the scenes. And then with Creative Compass, you can do shopcreativecompass.com. And there you can buy our products, retail. And then if you're interested in wholesale, having it in your shop, you can just reach out through that website too.
Awesome. I don't know how you found so much time in a day to do all of these things, but that's great. You got this down. You got it.
Well, I live off of iced coffee
Right.
and minimal showers these days. So.
Oh, I understand. Well, and also since I've last seen you, congratulations on your new baby boy. So now you have 2 kids, 7 years of business. It's pretty incredible.
Yes. 10 years in a relationship, marriage, and we've been together. And most of that has been with the business. So it's definitely added its challenges, but we also don't know any other way.
Right? And in 5 years, you're going to look back at this podcast and go, oh my gosh, look at where we've come since then.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have a vacation in between there.
Yes. Well-deserved vacation. Yes. You deserve one. That's
Thank
good.
you.
Hannah,
It's so good to see you again.
fantastic to see you too. We do have our Love Your Work retreat is coming up at the end of September. We'd love to have you there if you can make it. Otherwise, just please keep in touch and we'll keep following you on social and trying to stay updated with everything going on in your neck of the woods.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right. Good luck with the 4th of July.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you, Hannah.
Bye.